This is the October 14th, 2015 Nottingham Planning Board, and I'm the chairman here. My name is Dirk Rotenhuis, and I'm just going to go around the board here, introduce people. Before I do that, though, I would like to seat two alternates, Teresa Bascom for Susan Mooney, and Buzz for Charlene, and Robert Davies for Charlene. We'll do that. So, and then if everyone can introduce themselves.
Teresa Bascom, alternate.
Donna Danis, Board of Selectmen rep.
Edward Veal.
Dirk Rotenhuis.
John Moran.
Robert Davies, alternate.
Gary Anderson.
Paul Colby, code administrator.
Since we are missing two members, the alternates will have full voting rights this evening. We do have a fairly short agenda. The first public hearing and public meeting is for this case P15006 LLA, and it's an application from Frank Carideo. And it is also with Ken Sachs to adjust the lot line between tax map 71 lots 138 and 137. The property is at 46 Sachs Road and are owned by the two applicants. And I'd like to just turn it to Paul Colby to confirm, since he did the completeness review, make sure that the application is all set.
Yep, the application is complete and can be accepted tonight.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to accept the application for the lot line adjustment.
I'll make a motion to accept application for case P15006 LLA as complete.
Second.
Any discussion by the board? Okay, I'd like to open it up to the applicant or the applicant's representative to just give us a brief description for the reasoning for the lot line adjustment, and please state your name and your location or business.
Okay. Point of order, sorry. Do you want to take a vote on the motion first?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes. I'll take a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous.
Hi, I'm Roscoe Blaisdell. I'm a land surveyor from Raymond, next door. Ken Sachs is behind us. Mr. Carideo isn't here, but he's been following the project pretty closely. They have some land on Pawtucket Lake on Sachs Road, and they both have buildings on them, year-round houses. Mr. Carideo has about half an acre, and he'd like to get around half an acre from Mr. Sachs. Mr. Sachs has 4 acres. He'll end up with just a little over 5.5 acres. Pretty simple.
3.5.
Oh, sorry, did I say?
Yeah.
Okay. He's gonna go from 4 to 3.5. Yeah. And that's about it. Just pretty simple, yeah.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the
No,
board?
basically, we reviewed the plans, and we've met with Mr. Sachs on numerous times on this, and it's pretty simple, you know. Ken has a little over 4 acres. You can see where the lot line is now, just gonna be moved. His lot will still be conforming, well over conforming acreage-wise, and we're making Carideo's lot more conforming. Still won't be fully conforming at 2 acres, but we're going from a half to almost an acre, about an acre, so a little over an acre. So staff's recommendation is approval of the plan.
And is there any issues with frontage, roadway access, driveway?
No, they're all existing, so, yep.
Actually, I've got a question.
Yep.
If you take a lot of record and do a boundary adjustment and make it a bigger lot, but still a non-conforming lot, is the whole lot still a lot of record?
In other words, is this still a lot of record? No, this would be the lot of record now would become the date you approve this.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it doesn't go back to the original date of the original
No.
lot? Okay.
And then one question is, will the new lot line, the well isn't shown for the property on the left? I'm assuming the new lot line, the well is.
The well's right next to the house, so it's way away from property line. As a septic designer, I looked at all that stuff too.
Yep. I didn't think it'd be that far away, but just to make sure.
Will there be any cross easements or anything like that necessary, or the utility?
Basically,
easements?
it's just some raw land, there's nothing on it that they need an easement for.
And the 2 iron pipes that are shown, that are labeled as approximate former location of iron pipe, are those being removed, or are those still gonna be the front property line, specifically on the front where it's on the road?
Those, well, they're being erased because we're getting rid of that line.
Okay,
A plan from 1970 showed pipes at those locations. They're not there now, but I was able to reproduce where they were approximately, just scrunching things around. But it's a moot point now because we're getting rid of it.
so is that front lot line going away as well, instead of just the one on the left side? Would it be also the one on the front or the
If you
bottom?
look real closely, he's buying not a rectangle, but kind of a flag. He's buying a strip of the road. If you can look clearly right around.
Yep. So he's purchasing part of the Sachs Road, or almost all of it.
Yes.
He's in Sachs
Right.
Road,
Yeah,
Which is a private road.
which is a private road.
Right.
so
So that,
no rights to anybody is lost. He'll own the soil, and people can just keep using it as they have.
so that other lot line will be abandoned as well,
Yep,
right? So that would just have to be
Yes.
reflected on here
yep.
for clarity.
Any other comments from the board?
No, and so Paul, it doesn't affect access to the other, I understand the
He,
applicant.
he owns both properties.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So the other property's not owned by,
Christina, the one you see up there,
Yep.
lot 71, that's his daughter.
That's just, yeah, it's all family land, yeah.
okay.
So if I understand you right, what you're saying is that the lot line that's not marked right now as being abandoned, the one that runs along the driveway, is gonna have to be marked as being abandoned.
That's right, what I was asking.
That's being
Clarify.
abandoned
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so that would have to be marked.
But that's gonna show on the final plot. Final plot. Doesn't show on this one.
Which,
Well, I took it as being showed because where he's got it marked, that line is even though there's a right angle in it, give or take, it's a continuous line.
I think it's just a matter of just putting a note, former lot line to be abandoned on, along Sachs Road, the lot line there.
Just to avoid any confusion there. We
The
usually,
Frank's driveway is, just add a note.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Mylar I'd like to get signed tonight, but whatever. I could write on the plan right now.
Can I show you something? All right, so
I don't wanna come.
this is his original
They're
lot
talking
here.
about down here, right?
Now it's gonna go from here.
Yeah,
He's gonna
I
take
mean,
all Sax's Road
it's-
and go over, so it's like a flag, if you were looking
If
at
you
this
look
way.
at the whole picture, it
So that
should be
way-
clear that
that way you can view this all
line's
as
being
one line.
abandoned too. Sometimes
So the new
there's
line's gonna go
4
here.
or 5 lines
go here,
between
Yeah,
two,
I
of
see
them,
Yep.
getting rid of them, but I don't
So
put
this
a
line is gonna
a
disappear.
note on every, this line to be
that, but
abandoned, this
he
line to
doesn't
be
really
abandoned,
show
this
that.
line. It's kinda,
Show like a dotted, like they.
it's like, makes an
Like
angle
that
point,
Mark
so
right there means that this
you
line.
can't
is
just
gonna be
abandon one
abandoned.
line and not the other. It's,
He didn't show it here.
Okay, so,
Right.
That it's
so
gonna be
would you
abandoned
say
in the
that
new one. I
that's
got you, I
somewhat
can say it right.
standard
Yep.
practice then?
yeah, because I don't, every little line that being abandoned, it's, if you look, okay, you're abandoning that line, and that's connected to that line, and we're adding these 2 pieces, because you can see they're two separate pieces of land, separated by 2 lines, so we can't get rid of one line and keep the other. You just can't have.
And you'll
can't
have a, there'll be a new deed written up for the boundaries. for the new boundary, right?
There'll be a deed given to Carideo describing what he's getting, and it'll describe right around both of those lines that are being abandoned.
So it'll be a meets and bounds description.
Oh, well, that's, a good lawyer will do it that way. Sometimes they say, if they're lazy, they just say parcel, lot A, which, but that would be my suggestion to that lawyer, that they describe it by meets and bounds, but.
I guess the way we're used to seeing it, since like one, in the existing lot, you know, one is a side boundary and one is another, a separate boundary. And I understand your point where if you get rid of the side boundary, now you have no end point for that anymore.
Yeah,
So that kind of gets rid of that, but I think for clarity, it would be helpful to have that, because you're really eliminating 2 lot lines and creating 2 new lot lines.
But is that important enough to make him redo the Mylar?
I guess that's up to everybody else.
I already botched 2 before this. I mean, it's impossible to get rid of one and not the other. You can't just get rid of one and have a line in space. If you get rid of one, you're getting rid of, the insinuation is we have 2 lots, and we're getting rid of the line between the 2 lots.
Excuse me.
I don't know if the door's locked and somebody wanted to come in or not, so we'll just,
Oh, the police
off a second.
academy's down back, so I think they're just taking a break.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
The door's not locked.
They couldn't leave that and keep closure. You couldn't closure.
Yeah, it's got a,
Lot
And
description.
I have to tell
Yeah.
you that I did not, as a new member on this, I only saw that the one line was being removed, so I was trying to
Yep.
figure out what they were talking
Okay.
about for other lot lines, so for in the future, it would be a lot easier to be able to know what I'm looking at, if you would mark off which
if I
ones
would have shown it on
are
both,
being
yep. Mm-hmm.
abandoned and which ones are the new ones, or doing one darker than the other or something.
Yep.
Because I couldn't figure out which lines were being moved, other than that one where there's a arrow like between them.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul, what I was asking about, so with the road used to be, I don't know, are there any deeds or anything that's like, or right of ways that need to be updated or reflected on this?
No, it's private.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
My putting a lot line doesn't change what's already.
Because they've had, in their deeds, they have the right of way already.
Sure, okay.
To traverse this land, now it's their land.
So I'm wondering if a easy way to resolve this would be just to put the symbol, the arrow symbol that you have that shows the lot going over that line, so you don't have to rewrite text, and then,
If you have I didn't bring my India ink pen, but if you have a decent pen, I could put a line pointing right towards that other line too, if you want. And hopefully,
No, that'll work. We need,
Will that work or no?
I mean, I'm not forcing you to do that, I'm just saying if that's a compromise to do that, and we can have it, would that satisfy, do you believe this satisfy the
We might have
concern?
to, and, I don't know, if we might have to initial it, if he changes it with pen on that, I don't know what the rules are with the Mylar so much. But yeah, I mean, just because it might be clear at this time of night, because we're talking about it, but, you know, years from now, if someone pulls this lot line adjustment, this deed, this plan, you know, say that the 2 property gets sold off to other families, and they come back to this, and there's a question about then into that road, or where that property line is, I think, for,
Are they gonna look at this plan, or are they gonna look at the deed?
I was just gonna say the same thing, it's the deed that really gives you
Yeah.
the lines.
Back up the plan and vice versa.
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, they're gonna start at a point on the road and go the bearing and distance, go along the lake bearing, then go down the one where I say abandoned.
Sure.
Then it's gonna go that other bearing and distance, so it's gonna, then they're gonna be combined, and that line, I mean,
Becomes one lot.
yeah, just becomes one lot.
I don't think it's the deed more than
Yeah,
anything.
And on the new tax map, when it comes out, it's gonna show it it's gonna show it properly anyway, so.
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's okay, we'll just make sure in our minutes it's reflected that it's the entire line too, and just give that extra documentation to it, if the rest of the board's okay with that.
Well, that's a good point too, the tax map will come out.
And it's gonna show that that's all their property anyway, so.
Yep.
Any other concerns?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the lot line adjustment P15-006-LLA, tax map 71, lot 138 and 137.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Just leave them all right there, Roscoe.
Okay. The plan you have and my plan, I didn't put the gazillion bearings and dimensions on the plan you have. This plan has it all. It's just a line table. There's 50 little lines, and I would have got pretty busy.
To the shoreline.
But
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I hope your husband feels better now.
Sure, we'll see you guys around. Good to see you again. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, absolutely. Good to see you again, Frankie.
Take your time.
Nice. Take care.
Racing cane.
Okay, moving on. We have the new application to check out, and so Paul and Joanna have put together a new subdivision application, and it's
Little bit of
combined
everything. Yep.
site plan, everything.
So if you look, the first one is, an application, when someone comes in for conceptual, there's no form, we can't have a formal application. But what we want to do is track things. So with the conceptual consultation request, and it's just the basic information of who the applicant is, who the property owner is. The one thing we will add, and I've made a note, Joanna, that Dirk says the RSA that explains what a conceptual is, we're gonna add that language on that. The second one is notice of voluntary lot mergers. We've never had this form before. If somebody wants to, if they own 2 lots abutting and they want to make it into one, there's got to be a document that goes to the registry. So now we have it. So it'll be signed by all the owners. It'll be signed by probably the chairman, and it goes to the registry. The next one is the main application. Now, you notice it's named project application. What we're trying to do is not have a whole bunch of different applications. So it's both for subdivisional, you'll see it's for conventional subdivision, an open space subdivision, or a lot line adjustment, which is technically, under the rules, a subdivision. Site plan review, or change of use, or conventional site plan, if they have a change of use on a site plan. And then the concurrent subdivision site plan review under a new ordinance. So they would just check what box, or if they're going to amend, if somebody, we've never seen one, but someone could amend a subdivision or site plan review. And then pretty much everything's the same, it's just the acreage, the number of lots, if they're projecting to propose, if it's in current use, that comes right off our existing ones. The box down the bottom, the abutters list, you won't see, we're not changing it. Form B, and the authorization to enter subject property, we're not changing it. It works real well what we have. Form C, again, we're not changing it. And then the next 2 are just requirements. The waiver form, and I'll take the blame, I decided not to show it to you, but basically, the only thing we changed on that really was, at the top of the page, we put the new section numbers, the new subdivision regulations, where the waivers are. And then the second page is, we've always had problems with, we have multiple owners, so we made more owner signature blocks, as well as the applicant, developer, engineer, whoever. And then the new checklist. That's the next 1 to 5 pages, based right on the new subdivision regulations. If you look at it, this is gonna be part of the application package. So I'll use Roscoe for an example. He's gonna, where it says subdivision, he's gonna check completed application. Yep, I've provided that. And then where it says office use, that's when we do the in-house, so we can compare. He goes, well, if he gave us the abutters list, well, we don't have it, so we can do a comparison. And that's, once again, we just took it right out of the new subdivision regulations. And the last sheet is a design review application. OEP recommends we have a separate one for that, because we have to track that again. And that's basically, it's a, they can come in with some minor plans, here's what I'd like to do, This one will also, and again, besides this sheet, will also be the abutters list, because that's when we have to notify the abutters. And the thing we eliminated from the application packages was the fee sheet, because the fee, well, we redid it. The fee sheet, they used to fill in what the fees were, and we're not letting them do that anymore, because sometimes they don't always do it right, and we'd have to correct them. So our fee sheet is just, here's subdivision fee is, and it spells it out. And, you know, $10 per abutter, that's what we currently charge, the advertising fee. So they'll still get that. So the only change on that sheet was the applicant, we're not letting the applicant fill it out, we're using it as an in-house. You know, if you guys see changes, let us know, we can make changes. The goal is, just so you know, as well as these forms, we're changing all the forms that I use on my side of the desk to save the town some money. And our goal is with the next couple months, well, maybe January, depends on when somebody takes leave. We're gonna get these all on the town website, all the applications, so somebody can download them and go from there. If you notice on the checklist, the very first sheet, right at the top, at the first block, check appropriate box. So if they do a lot line, they only need to fill out sections 1 and 2. And then the rest. Will be, once we redo the site plan review regulations, there'll be a whole separate checklist for that.
Okay, one comment I would have is to add the headings, the subdivision, the office use provided, not applicable to every page, the top of every page. You get into page 5 or 4, kind of getting confused of what box is what.
We can try that, but it messes up our spacing. We can try, I know it's exactly what you're talking about. We can try to fit that in, so.
Is this set up as a table or just as?
No, we did a lot of cutting and pasting and,
I think I can,
yeah. I'm
so
just
your
making-
your last page is a full page, so you should be able to block down.
Paul, how is this saving the town money?
What's that?
How is this saving the town money?
This?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I just heard you say that this is saving the town.
These applications, because we've combined.
Save it by putting it online?
Well, we'll put it online. We'll still have printouts in the office. People are still gonna come in. But right now, if you came in for a site plan, you came in for in a subdivision, there's 2 separate forms. Now we got 1 form, so we're gonna save copying. On my side of the building permit forms, we are buying them or having them printed.
Yeah,
We're doing them in-house now.
okay.
So we're gonna save a lot of money that way,
Okay.
so.
On the project application, you mentioned we're not going to have the fee
Well,
on there.
The fee will be a separate sheet. They'll attach will be what the fees are. So the applicant will know, okay, it's gonna cost me this much. When he comes in, Joanna has a fee sheet that we fill out, and then that gets attached to the applicant.
Versus them
Application.
filling it out.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
didn't know if there was a need for a box that say fees have been paid or something like that, but if it's going to
Well,
be.
because on that fee sheet, it says paid with the date right on it, and that gets attached to this.
All right.
Yeah.
Dirk, in the application that you have the file right there, it's the last page on the right-hand side.
The Carideo, the case we just had tonight, the lot line adjustment?
Just to give you an idea of exactly what he's referring to.
Yeah.
Page left-hand side, I'm sorry. I was doing
Under the-
mirror image.
So right now, what we do is, everybody gets this page, and they fill it out. What we've done was eliminated this, and the second page of this, for lot line, doesn't matter, is our chart. So we've added all this language, she re-edited it, and we added in the chart for the impact fees. So instead of 2 sheets, we're 1. This page, we're still using in the office. So like Dirk had said, we know they paid the $100, and then we initial it, and then we always keep, Joanne always makes copies of any fees. Not that it affects you, but another form we did is a tracking form for escrow accounts. when people establish escrow accounts, whether it be maintenance bonds, performance bonds, whatever. Because when we had to switch of bookkeepers, it was a little confusing of, Betsy trying to figure out what's what. So now when we collect an escrow account bond, you might get a check, there'll be a sheet. And we'll fill that out, the applicant signs it, we sign it, and it goes to the bookkeeper. So
I think one thing, so thank you both for putting so much work into these. So I think maybe one thing we may want to consider now or for the future is labeling these with like either form numbers or whatever, so we can keep track of the different forms that we have in the office. Like, so the subdivision conceptual consultation request, I don't know if we want to put at the bottom, this is form 1 and the date that we accepted it as this, so like 10/15.
Or just a revised date or something when it was put into.
well, because what we do is we eliminate all the other forms.
Right. Just a thought.
What's the goal you're trying to get at?
Just so we can keep track of like when a form came into place and when, so we can keep track of the different forms we have.
Well, that's on the computer. When we create it, it's saved on with the date. Yeah.
Right, so I mean, like later on in here, when we get to the planning board project application, there's, we do Form A, Form B, Form C, and what they are.
What if we add,
So I didn't know if we just wanted to do that for consistency, like,
Well,
Label.
them letters, A, B, and C, are on them forms.
Right.
Them we haven't changed. Them are the ones we've been using right along.
right.
Right.
So I mean, it's not like a. do or
I
die
understand what
thing.
you're saying.
I don't know if we want to consider that with all the forms we have in town and whatever else, and specific to the planning board. I didn't know if that was something we wanted to consider, start doing, just so we know, like, from a town perspective, we have all these, we have 20 different forms out there, and this is what they are, and, we can easily pull them out, but,
Well, the only forms that are out there are in our office,
right.
and the old ones are already gone. Unless you want to wade through our recycling bins.
No. And then, I didn't know if we want to put like page number at the bottom. And this would only be if you think we would tend to get, I think you added enough lines for signatures of property owners and the property owner listings. But if we ever see cases where there's more, we could do like page, this would be 1 of 1. But if there is 10 owners, say it's another, it's a commercial property. Or I don't know.
At this point, if they need more owner signatures, they can make a copy of this, so they can ask.
Okay.
Because we've got separate ones of these in a file.
Yeah.
Hard copies. Or they can just hit print 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Right, so.
But just for tracking purposes, that way we could always say we had it together.
Well, what we can do, Joanna, to the owner sheet, we'll add the case number. And that way, if it gets separated, we know what case it goes to.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yes.
Take that
All the
bar-
other forms have it on it.
Take that bar from the front page and just
Yeah.
put it on this
All the other forms have it on it.
This far.
case, project number and date, yeah. And then when you get to the checklist, this may not even be something you need, but when you get to the office use, would a date box be helpful, like a date that was checked or a date that, or initials like who checked or anything like that?
Well, I don't put an X, I put my initials when I do it,
Okay,
so, I mean,
so that covers that.
Section 1.
yeah.
yeah, I think you've done a great job, and if these are helping you guys organize a little bit better, and, I'd almost defer to some of you guys inside office.
Right.
If you feel that these are adequate and necessary for what you're doing, and I think that's great.
I mean, yeah, we'll add the little things in we talked about.
I think this is very helpful to us as a board too, because, this is something we should be doing as well, is when we go through these applications, is checking these things, and it makes it very easy for us to go through and see and check off.
Well, our thoughts are, right now, you get a copy of the front page of the application.
Right.
And then you'll get a copy of the checklist for each case too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Well, and I think if you look at it from the applicant's point of view, it's very, self-explanatory, right through it.
There's a lot of boxes and there's a lot of detail, but, that's for a really major case.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, probably 70, 80% of the ones we'll see will use.
We're just gonna say
order
NA,
of these
NA,
boxes.
NA, yeah. Yep.
So same thing with this, I don't know if there's room to put the case number somewhere on each trailing page. Maybe.
If
Maybe.
you're already adding this other section of it, you'll end up with 6 pages.
Well, I think you can do it in the, where we would normally put a page number, like page number 1, 2, 3, how that prints on the, in the footer. You could customize that to say case number. Yep. And then just handwrite them in. Just in the event that these ever get separated. You know, say we get 4 cases at the same time,
Where's on the checklist?
we drop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got it written up.
Me too.
I'm putting in the minutes.
Well, we don't need to approve these or vote on these, so that's good.
Thank you both for all your work.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
No problem.
The next item on the agenda is the budget.
Basically, you know, we've submitted the budget. The line for planning was we would do the impact fee. Like I said, originally we hadn't been able to get a hold of Mr. Mayberry. This weekend I had the opportunity to drive through New Gloucester, Maine, and his office is no longer there. So even the regional planning commissions haven't found him. This other gentleman, Mr. Mitchell, that we had contact with, we've both talked with him in the last week and a half. We've called him and called him and called him, and he's not got back to us. So we put the $2,500 in. That was what we usually budget on that line. So the chairman and I talked earlier tonight, and, you know, when the other 2 absent members are here, you know, in a future meeting, we'll discuss what you guys want to do with impact. I think it'd be better if we had everybody here. And, I mean, we'll keep trying to get a hold of Mr. Mitchell to get us a price, but
Yeah. So the original impact fee studies are online. They're on,
Yeah.
on Paul's page, on the building inspector's code enforcer page. So I'd recommend everybody take a look at those if you haven't already, to see what kind of detail goes into it. And then just reread the RSA if you haven't had a chance, because I've learned a lot from it as to when they can be applied and how they can be applied, and what they can be applied for. So, I mean, we might want to, you know, might be able to check with legal to see if it's possible to, you know, review it. Do we have to have a complete reassessment done, you know, by a third party, or is it possible for the board to consider that's reviewed and to reapprove them for X number of years?
you can opt not to have the study done.
Right.
But what's gonna happen is, and we already have 2 citizens in town that own land that are waiting for a decision from you, that if the decision is not to have the study done and we just continue with the current price, they're gonna challenge the board, which then you have to make an immediate decision to hire someone to do the study or eliminate them. That's from our legal counsel,
From
Seems
the
that,
town's legal counsel.
yeah.
seems that
And municipal association said the same thing, I checked with both.
if we can't even get an estimate, how are we supposed to
That's-
actually
Right.
have an assessment done?
We've talked with 2 planning commissions, and then I talked with the city planner of Concord, Matt's a friend of mine, and he says everybody goes, we use Mr. Mayberry. So, and they're all scratching their heads what to do.
Yeah. His name's on a lot of things too, for the planning commissions, when there were studies, like
Right, exactly.
putting
yeah.
together impact fee.
Yeah. And this other guy,
things,
Mr. Mitchell, used to work
documentation.
with Mr. Mayberry originally, so. So,
Sounds like a business opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm thinking,
Exactly.
The current process covers
I'll
us
recuse
till through
myself.
2016, and at that point, we would no longer be covered.
July 11th, 2016, it goes away.
And obviously, you can walk away from it
We
with
need
a
to
lot
take
of money.
action by-
Well, if we're gonna, if the board decides that you're gonna do away with impact fees, and I'm not saying to the public they are, I says if they decide, then we'll have to put a ballot question on the ballot for March to remove that section of the zoning ordinance.
What's the 2016 deadline you just said?
July 11th, that's when they voted, I think it's July 11th, July 12th.
They're in
July
place for 6
something.
years.
They were in place for 6 years.
They're in place
Right,
for
yeah.
6 years.
Got it.
You start refunding.
So that's, we have to have a study done by then if we're gonna continue. Or we should have the study done by then if we're gonna continue.
And if we had any input, I know the school board was, did they end up joining the CIP, or they're doing
No,
their
they're
own
doing their
CIP?
own, but I did talk to Deb, and they had questions, and I happy that this is coming up, because I couldn't answer, because I said we're kind of at a stalemate with, what's going forward with the, with those assessments, because
And if you look
I
at,
don't
if you look at the way the impact fees are structured too, so I think it was 4,000 was for the school portion,
4220
1,000 something
goes
was
to the
for
school
the
board.
fire department, for the new.
Yeah, 4220 to the school,
Or for the whole
district,
fire department bill,
667 to the fire department.
So the biggest part there is for the school.
So they have to be a part of the dialogue.
They should be, right, we need to have their input as
Yep.
to if they plan on having any kind of capital expenditures that would be covered under that in the next foreseeable future. Or not, otherwise, I mean, I think they have $80,000, 80,000? Sitting in escrow at the moment, and that money will be going back, so.
Since the last report, we've collected a couple more, but we're
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
ballpark, yeah.
But it also potentially impacts other, properties that are coming in through subdivision, like Paul mentioned, so. I think I don't know how much we owe still on the bond for the fire station.
4 or 5 more years, somewhere in there.
A lot of things to consider.
So the impact fee only goes towards the fire department and the school? But a building, a home residence or a business impacts far more than just those two
Right,
entities.
but when we had the study done, that was the only things that could be justified to spend the money on.
Isn't it recreation too?
Nope.
Oh,
There's certain
We
things.
they did a preliminary study, what would have to happen if they did recreation. And I have that preliminary study, but there was never a full study done because when he was doing that research, there was nothing on the horizon. It was long before we owned the Marston property or anything like that.
yep.
So
Oh,
we
right.
have to justify, and it's quite a lengthy process.
And it's,
And the consultant, Mr. Mayberry, who was the school district and the fire station, or for the fire department, because we just built the station. So our hands are tied where we can spend the money.
currently, unless we do another study to,
Right.
and pull in those, the RSA outlines exactly what you can use it for, and it's a proportionate share, so we see, we're expecting, say, 500 new houses in the next 5 years, and we know that that's gonna kind of push us over the edge with certain things, say, okay, our police are at capacity here, and we know we're gonna have to hire, 2 more and put a new building up, or, expand the fire department, put them in there as a municipal, something like that, then, that cost would be projected, say that's a $4 million project, and then you take your current housing load and the expected load, and then that's how you get the.
But you also gotta remember, this
portion
is
of
a
it.
planning mechanism.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? So
And it's usually
even though we
conjunction.
get pennies, we get 667 out of the 4,800, the school gets 90% of it.
Yeah,
The town pays for the study, not the school.
sure.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fair.
It's the law, it's state law. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it.
So the RSA dictates what you can use it for.
Yep.
Yep,
But the way that we've got it implemented right now, it's only for the school or the fire department.
correct. That was, when we
Yeah,
did the study,
I
that
get,
was the only
I
two
get that,
justified.
I get that.
Yep.
Can we change the nature of what it's used for?
You'd have to do a new study to justify it.
You have to have a new study to
The new studies that
justify
we're
it.
talking
Okay.
about was,
Okay.
is it still, number one, is it still justified
Yep.
fire and school?
Yep.
Number two, is the price could go up, the price could go down, depends on what the
Yep.
study says. And if they wanted to change what it's used for. But the law is very strict on what you can use it for.
Okay.
It has to be for capital improvement. Additions.
But it could be used for recreation if we can justify that.
But there's so many
We'd have
other
to have a
things
whole
that
new
happen.
study to do recreation, yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't move the money over.
You can't do it now, but you could,
Yeah, you
I'm
can't
just
go in.
theorizing, I'm not promoting anything, I'm just
Right,
saying.
no, but I'm just saying, too.
If the study justified recreation,
What's that, if you could
if we did a
justify,
new study and it justified recreation,
then we could put money towards it.
only what that dollar amount
Got
that
it.
he,
I
the
understand.
dollar amount he's gonna give us.
I understand, okay.
Right.
But if you can't find anybody to do a study, is my question one, how can you do a study? Second thing is, if there is an RSA that says that you can charge these things and this is what it's used for, why do we have to have a study? why can't?
Because the RSA says you have to have a study to justify the
But
numbers.
how can the RSA mandate a study if there's no one there to do the
Wait a
study?
minute, the RSA says we're allowed to do this, it doesn't say we have to. The
Right.
minority of towns in New Hampshire have impact fees.
Right, but my thing too, though, is that how can an RSA dictate that if you want to have impact fees, you have to have a study when there's no one to do a study? Why can't it just be if you have to, if you have needs in your town, that you charge the impact fees, and this is what the impact fees are for?
Another silly government mandate.
Because they want an independent person to look, because if towns set their own impact fees,
Just gotta be justified.
it's gotta be justified.
Yeah.
Right.
What town would put in impact fees that aren't for a purpose?
Remember, impact fees are a method of growth control too. If you read the RSA, it's under the growth control ordinance.
You're
under
laughing
RSA.
about it, but we
no.
already, but wait, no, listen,
Okay.
you were laughing about it. My whole point is, who sets how much we pay for our taxes? Our property tax and our school tax? Somebody in town sets those,
Nope, Teresa, you're wrong. The state sets the tax rate.
including the one for however beautiful your property looks, that fee?
That's the
goes on?
assessing firm. That's not the taxes, that's your
So
assessment.
that's-
That's a different thing.
But that's still by the town, is it not?
The town assesses
Okay.
property for a value.
All right, so
The
it's
tax
the
rate
town.
is not set by the selectmen of the school district,
Right.
it's set by the state.
But that's still a form of the tax that the town is doing.
Well, we have to do the assessing,
Right,
there's
it's
no
by law.
choice.
If we
Right,
don't
but
do
when
the
I-
assessment, the state's gonna tell us we have to anyways.
But what I'm saying is, if there is something that the town is saying for this fee that people are paying, it's a fee, and as far as I'm concerned, based on the, what is it called, curb appeal, or something like that, is a fee that you pay, and they're saying how much it is, how is that any different than this impact fee?
That's not coming from the town, though. I mean, the assessing firms are the ones that come up with the assessment. We engage with an assessing firm, and
Right.
they're the ones,
Practices.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're the ones that come up with it.
Hold on, I think we're just getting a little off topic of what we have before us is really the budget for the planning board. That's kind of how we got into that discussion. So we have a budget that was put in with a line item that has whether we do the study or not.
Right.
There is some funds in there.
Right.
So you put some in, but not 50,000 or
Right,
$25,000.
we put 2,500 like we have been in the
So-
past few years, and we also put in $2,500 in the Stratford Regional line, so technically we've got 5,000.
Okay, so I think we need,
Give or take a
I think
few,
we need
yeah.
to have it as an agenda item to talk about a little bit more in detail, our impact fees, whether we're going to move forward with a study, how we're gonna get a study, if we are gonna get a study. I think some of those questions we still don't know, but I think we should add it to our agenda so that we can really dive into whether we're
Yeah.
going to continue that.
My recommendation is, if it's okay with you guys, is at our next meeting, because we have no cases pending, we can spend some time talking about it, and we have to get the final budgets to the town administrator, so he can correlate everything, get it to the selectmen, then we can get it to the budget committee, and if we're not going to do it, it gives us enough lead time to hold our public hearings, just like any other zoning amendment.
So I think, when do we have to have the budget by?
Departments, including boards, had to have their budgets in 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we did, we met that deadline.
So we can,
Yeah, but the budget season goes on from now until.
Right, we still have
December.
another month and a half to
Yeah.
get that final.
We've got a lot of time to adjust.
we have the option, because since obviously November is a shortened month because of the holiday, we only have probably one meeting. December, same thing. So we have an opportunity, if we wanted to, we could hold a workshop on this at our second meeting of this month and really discuss this as a board. It's RSA 674-21-5. It's under innovative land use controls, like Paul mentioned. And it generally is considered as part of a growth ordinance.
671.
Oh, sorry, 674-21, section 5. Because we may be, looking at those reports, I mean, I don't know that we need to have an external firm do it, or we could reproduce what he did and have justifiable that that's how, that's the method. It's an approved method, because that's what was used before, so it's an approved method. We could do it as a subcommittee, maybe.
I mean, everywhere else I've worked, we've had an independent consultant do it.
Right.
One other
Because they've been
town,
available.
in Pembroke, when I was on the committee there, I would recommend the gentleman, but unfortunately, he passed away 3 years ago, so.
Is there any new mechanisms that are being used by communities that would replace this?
That was one of the
You
things I
mentioned
asked both
tax-
Stratford Regional and Rockingham Planning Commission if they knew of something, some other method, and they're all scratching their heads because they said, it's just not us, there's most of the towns in our neighborhood, if you will, are all due in the next year or two for the study, and they don't know what to do.
How about planning board or code administrators building in statewide? Is there a network where you can go on and ask the question?
Oh,
Who's
we do,
using
but
it?
you gotta remember, in my position, there's not many, most towns don't sit on the planning board. There's, maybe 10 of us.
Yeah.
Most places have bigger cities, or bigger towns, have a planner as an employee.
Right, but.
He also said, though, that impact fees were in a
Very
minority
minority in New Hampshire.
of towns, so that kind
And
of.
a lot of people go, yeah, yours are, we've been looking at impact fees just to get a feel, and we're on the high average side compared to other towns our size.
One of my recommendations, so we know our previous quote for the original impact fees, I think was $25,000.
Yep.
We could try to do this as a subcommittee, get a subcommittee to do an impact fee, and just use the methods outlined in the two that we have, which are clear. I mean, that way we have an approved method that's been used before, so it's justifiable and it's reproducible.
I would disagree with you on the justifiable part, because it's the rooster
Right.
setting the fees on his own hen house. So that's why people use an independent one. So, and the thing is, though, if we have a subcommittee or the planning board sets the fees, if we get challenged,
Yeah.
what's the first thing a land use lawyer is gonna go, okay, where's your expertise in this?
Right. So
I got no offense to anybody in the room.
what would the court cost be for a lawyer for that, and we might lose. But would it be less than $25,000? So, I mean, there's an ROI on it. There's just, these are things we would have to talk in depth about as a board.
I mean, if you look at the
Probably
case
at a
history in the
specific
last few
special meeting.
years, towns are losing every case on impact
But
fees.
we set our own, application fees, and nobody questions that, so you're saying like.
Well, don't say people don't question that, because
I mean, they
you
do.
guys just don't see
So-
it.
But people could challenge that, but we do it, because it's one of our authorities as a board, so I think, as a board, we have to really review the RSA on it, and then, there's a lot of other documents on it too.
I would advise the board to get a legal opinion
Yeah, I definitely.
if we're gonna do it.
completely agree.
Because, I'm very nervous about us doing our own.
Yeah.
Well, can we get that in 2 weeks, though? From the town? You had mentioned that they
Well,
already commented on that?
Why don't we put it on the agenda for 2 weeks and decide whether we even want to go in that direction or not?
Okay.
Right, and if we decide to, we can go get an opinion. a
Yeah,
legal opinion.
That's a good idea. I think if we have a topic, we can talk about it for a while.
Let's get all the information in front of us. Let's get we have the RSA and how much has been collected so far, how much has been paid out, and that way we can sit here and have a rational discussion about it and decide what direction we want to go in, whether we want to keep.
Then we can come up with some action items after that
I
discussion.
agree with that.
And I would
Okay.
definitely ask you to bring it back to the BOS, because it falls completely into the CIP, and John too, obviously. They go hand in hand, so you can't do an impact fee if it's not in the CIP.
Would it be appropriate to invite the school department here for that meeting?
The school administration had a meeting with our town administrator. He asked me for a handout on the two justification sheets. And he asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered them, and I said, do you want me at the meeting? He goes, nope, I'll handle it. So I have no clue what happened at that meeting.
I would, if we do a workshop on it, I would invite at least their person that's doing their CIP.
Oh, they put it out there.
Well, they're doing their own, it's
Yeah.
the school board itself.
Yeah,
doing
but they
their
should be a
own.
part of the
Yeah, but if we're
dialogue.
gonna be talking about impact fees, that
Right.
90% goes to them,
Right. Oh, yeah.
I
Well,
think
you
that
know
they'd
what?
wanna have some
Put out-
input.
Put out the invite, and if they don't show up, then obviously they don't really.
I'm sure they'll show up. I'm sure they'll show up.
And while
I'm
they're
just
doing their
saying.
own CIP, I guess I'm not
Everything's
quite certain if that's, procedurally, if that's okay, like, will it, whatever they're doing, they're gonna present it to the CIP committee, and then it'll come with a formal CIP, or they're creating like a
What I
school
was
board
told
CIP?
by the town administrator that they're doing their own thing,
Yeah,
and they'll do their own CIP report to the budget committee.
Which they will share with the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Well, they would have to. wouldn't
so it would
they?
end up being added into the regular CIP, it wouldn't be.
I don't know that it will get added in. I mean, don't forget that they are a separate
It'll be
district.
a line.
Yeah, I understand, but.
They have no obligation to report to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I understand that, it's just for the, for this,
It makes a very gray area, and that's the municipal association, when I talked to them,
a gray area.
their first question was, really, the school board wants to do that? Because this throws up big red flags for impact fees, which is town controlled, not school controlled. And the school can't do their own impact fee study.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
So I think we should invite them to be a part of this dialogue in 2 weeks, and I'm sure that they will
Because
participate.
there may be some major red flags, he said, and he would have to do more research, that if the school was doing a separate CIP, that may eliminate them from impact fees, but he had to do more research.
So that would be an important thing for them to know.
Well, I think if let's get to this next meeting, and then we can hash through a lot of this stuff, try and get, smart on this by then, as much as you can. And then if need more information after that, we'll have some action items to go and seek out who has the information and.
Should we also invite a member of the fire department? Seeing as that, why would we not invite them if we're gonna invite?
Well, the fire department, the money, they don't even see the money at all. They don't get the money at all.
I think that's part of the capital.
It goes, it's not even capital improvement, that goes right, it's a bookkeeping thing in-house, we do
Okay.
just pay the bond, the selectmen control the bond payments.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Unless there was a new capital improvement item.
I think
that
if we were
they're
gonna keep
presenting.
impact fees, then that would be another step of
Until we
finding
pay
out
the
what
fire
is that
station
capital
off, we're
improvement
pretty
over the
much
next
tied
6
into it.
years.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it just fire stations? Is it new equipment, new trucks and stuff, or
If
is
the
that
new equipment is needed for the growth,
just, you have to justify it for the
yeah,
growth?
it can't be replacement of
Right.
equipment because it's outdated or anything. It's gotta
Okay.
be for something that's new because
Like,
of.
he's proposing to replace an engine with a combination piece. We could not use it for that.
But I question, the other engine isn't going out
Yeah, I know.
service.
Right.
So they
That's
are
not what
adding
he,
another fleet.
that's not what he informed us when the
Well,
question was asked.
From
That's
the
what-
other night.
that's what he said at the CIP
That's
the
what he
other
said the
night.
other night. He is keeping the other one in service. This would be a whole new unit.
Okay, but the justification right now is for the bond payment.
Right, of
So,
course. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll tell you,
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
bond payment's $40,000 a year, and in 3 years, we've put $19,000 extra dollars into the bond payment.
And then it ties back to town meeting, because if the appropriations don't get approved, then like I said, the capital, it's on the capital improvement, and we're trying to bond out $10,000 or something, but that doesn't get approved at meeting.
Almost like a full-time job.
Yeah,
That-
right,
Obviously, that
right.
impact fee doesn't have its legs. So they all, there's a lot of strings, but I don't know, maybe it would be helpful to have council's impression on it.
What I would do is I'll
Be informed.
see what I can get out of them without, so we don't get charged. Because if you guys decide to do away with them, then why do we want to spend the money for council to weigh in to go, this is what you gotta do? That's my thought.
Right, I guess, because to have an informed decision, to make sure, we know, and we have all the pieces we need to make this decision before we decide to move forward, and we're getting towards the end of the year, trying to hammer down our budget, not trying to spend extra money, but.
I will
we're
pass it
talking
on to the town
25,000.
administrator, because we've been informed he's the only one that can talk to council.
All right, we'll have that on the agenda.
Just real quick, so you guys know the timeline, the last day to post the published notice for, zoning changes is January 7th. So that means we have 3 meetings, because of potentially 3, because of November and December having holidays.
So we should make our next meeting a meeting, not a workshop, and have that be the first zoning change, zoning definition,
That's
public notice.
to this board, just so you know.
Well, we don't know what we're changing.
Right.
Well, that's on the.
The zoning definitions,
It's the
I mean,
next
that's, if you guys agreed, we're just changing them to meet what we did the subs.
Right.
If that's just a matter of you guys saying, yep, and then we'll schedule the public hearing, but if we're gonna do it with impact fees, the public hearing will be one definition changes to eliminate that section, or whatever we decide to do.
Okay.
Oh, you're saying the zoning ordinance was including the impact fee part?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I thought it was just,
So, no, we have time, we
I
have
think it was
time.
just the definitions, I was thinking we could hold that and
Right.
cover it.
So what questions do you want me to have answered by next meeting for this?
From council,
Or
or from anybody?
anything? We're gonna still try to get a hold of Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, that certainly would be helpful.
Yeah.
Is there
Definitely
anyone else?
we need to know, have all the figures in front of us, I think, as far as.
Yeah, how much the cost is, what's been done over the 6 years. I know you have that, so
Yeah.
maybe we can bring that in. We can
I'll just
talk
bring
about
that sheet in again, yeah.
And I've got all the documents already downloaded, I'll send them to Joanna to have, or send them out to the full board. Just the two studies that have already been done, and then there's like, I think a document put together by Stratford Regional Planning Commission about impact fees, which again was mostly authored by Bruce Mayberry.
Yeah.
So what has been collected and where has it gone would be something I'd be interested in.
The money that's collected, for the fire department, roughly 19,000, I'm rounding off, has been to help pay off the bond. And the school has not spent any of the money we've collected.
Okay.
But they haven't had any,
And how much money's been collected?
for the school,
I think it's like
No,
120,
oh,
In
isn't it
total?
like 120 now?
about 80 to 90,000.
Oh, okay.
The total is about
So,
that, yeah.
so rather than continue this conversation, we should see that in documentation for our next meeting.
We handed that out to you guys a few weeks
That's
ago.
what questions we wanted to have answered for the next meeting, and that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
is
yeah. You guys were given that information a few meetings ago,
Yeah.
but we'll do it again, yeah.
No.
Because we've collected a few that then, so we'll have the most up to date. Yeah.
I guess I'd like to at least, because you had mentioned earlier about, you had already talked to attorneys that if we move in a direction, then we're gonna get challenged.
Right.
So-
And these were not official from my desk phone calls, these were at conferences, we were all at together, so informal
Gotcha, okay.
type, right.
So you don't have a letter from them that says
No,
that?
because I wasn't authorized, like I said, I'm no longer authorized to talk with a lawyer officially.
Okay, so, I guess we'd like to, I certainly would like to know what the impacts would be if we, reinstilled this without a study. You know, just continued the fees. And, you know, if we have a new study, then we've got the backing and expertise there. So that's kind of a no-brainer, and then if we vote to not have them, then we understand that that's not really a legal issue either.
Another thing, I know it's probably almost an intangible, but if you, how much staff time it takes to kind of track these and process these
For every impact fee, I can tell you that right now, for every impact fee that's assessed, it takes an hour to 2 hours of staff time to process. Time I collect it, I fill out all the proper paperwork, I give it to the bookkeeper, she then has to record it, and then it goes to the treasurer, she has to spend time at our bank to set up the individual, basically escrow accounts. So we discussed that, the three of us, the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just keep it on the list. Just
So out of the 27, I think we've collected, times 2, that's how many, so a week's worth of, man hours we can have.
All right, let's go ahead and continue this discussion on the next meeting. I'm going to move on to the Board of Selectmen and staff updates. We are out of specific agenda items, so if there's any updates, I'll start with Donna.
Sure. We, as I mentioned last time, we were holding the public hearing on the parking ordinance, which we did at our last meeting. There was no one from the public attended, no comments provided. And we did pass a motion to designate the Town Beach access road and parking as permit-only parking. We, at our last meeting, also received a petition request from citizens on Guile Road to have the remaining mile and a half of that road paved. So from 152 to McCrillis. There were some concerns by one individual presented about the impact of dust on their business, which resides right there. There's also some concerns about flooding and, the what goes on at the end of the road there. Drainage, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you very much. We talked briefly with the road agent last night, Monday night? Yeah, Monday night. And he indicated that there are drainage issues there, that it would be a big project in order to kind of pave that area. In his mind, it's not on a higher priority on his list relative to everything else that needs to be done. But the Board of Selectmen hasn't made any decisions on that. Okay? We are looking at updating the website, the town website. And Chris has a proposal from one group that does, specializes in doing, municipal websites. And we're looking at it a little bit closely. I know Mark Carpenter in particular wants to see a demo of it. I had some questions about the technology being used, so Chris is looking at that, but it is a priority to get the website updated, a little more user-friendly, a little easier to maintain. And then, I'll let John talk about CIP.
Just real quick here, just to note that Guile Road is a scenic road, listed as a scenic road.
Yes, yep.
Does that mean it can't be paved?
No, it just would need, if it is paved, then it would need to come before the board, planning board.
Oh, gotcha.
We'd have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna approve it,
Yep.
So the CIP meeting was with the Board of Selectmen on Monday. We met with the fire chief and the deputy chief to go over some of the proposals of their future expenditures. One was a truck called a Quint. It has 5 modes that it services, ladder, pumper, tanker. There's 2 more, and I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me. But as a proposal of what they're looking to spend for that new truck, a lot of discussion about that and how it's gonna be able to service the town. Then we met with the road agent, and went over some other things. Nothing was finalized, we kinda just went over what they were in the road agent's future expenditures, for the future, and needing a grader, maybe 5 years down the road, a new 10-wheel dump truck coming up maybe in the next 4 years or 3 years. So stuff like that for us to make sure that we budget and have money set aside to help pay for those future expenditures.
The 5 things on the Quint, I brought the paper, John.
Thank you.
The 5 things are pump, water tank, fire hose, aerial device, and ground ladders.
Is that a full-size
boat
truck?
and plane.
Or is it like is it a full-size, like falling flat type of thing that we were used to
Basically,
seeing?
if you take the new fire truck we just bought and put a ladder on top of it. and
That's basically what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really any bigger or larger than what we have now existing.
Would it be able to get to, like, what percentage of the residences in town would it be able to get to?
That is one of the things that was brought up, and we were having a future discussion about that, because that information wasn't fully available at the time of those questions.
I think there are different sizes of them, and the, what do you call the things that
The booms
yeah, the booms that go out there, hold it.
Outriggers.
Hold it.
Outriggers.
The outriggers. There's different sizes, they take up different space, there were questions about, whether or not it would be usable on driveways, for example, that had a steeper grade or were of a certain width. The chief, is proposing this because he's concerned about, being able to get it at taller structures and also safety,
Sure, yeah.
right? One of the questions that came up that the Board of Selectmen asked me to bring here is about in the regulations about the height of structures.
Yep.
Right, and is the height maximum 35 feet?
No,
Or,
that's not a planning board function, that's a building department function.
Okay,
In our zoning ordinance, it's 34 feet,
okay,
okay? And it is a formula you use. Basically, you take an average of the 4 sides, and that's how you calculate.
so that's how it's done?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a formula, it's in the building code, there's a special formula that I calculate.
So where did that formula come from? Is that something that we came up, or is that based on some,
That's in the National Building Code,
Okay,
right.
all right,
The 34 feet height limitation that's in majority of the towns that don't have ladder trucks. It's called the New Boston Law. The town of New Boston, back in the 70s, came up with that because the average, if a town doesn't have a ladder truck, the largest ladder they have is 35 feet.
Okay,
So we keep it a foot, and that's measured to the peak.
okay.
But there's a whole formula. Yep.
Right, so you're on a slope, you know, downside,
Yeah, so you can
the
have the
slope side,
walkout
maybe.
basement and stuff like that.
maybe
Yep,
higher,
yep.
looking from that side.
So the chief presented it, you know, last night for the first time. There were lots of questions about what percentage of the town it would be able to serve, you know, what's the incremental gain that it would be able to serve. So there's be more information to come on that, I'm sure.
Just because a lot of the fires in the last couple of years have been around the lake, and I know those roads are smaller and probably might be harder to
Whether
get
it
to.
could be usable, correct? That was
So
one of the
making
other-
sure that
Yeah,
the safety equipment that we have for them, that they can use.
But it still would have to come to
Keep
a
them
town
safe.
vote, a town meeting in order to approve this expenditure.
right.
So there would be something which was brought to the chief's attention about having a, God, now I forgot the word I'm looking for. A display of like why needing, you know, what the benefits and stuff like this, you know, for this, so they can educate at the town meeting at the time of, if this comes through
Yeah,
to vote.
Yeah, I think a cost-benefit ratio explanation would be helpful, because it's not that most people don't want to give the fire department what they need.
Right.
But for something that's so expensive, it would be nice to know, you know, is this just, would you want the bells and whistles, or is there really
And again,
a
it's not, again,
benefit to having it?
what he just states, it's really not about the bells and whistles, it's about having what he feels is the proper equipment to service the town of
Well, that's what I
Nottingham.
just said.
No, I'm just, right.
Is it that you want it, or is there a real need for it, and this will serve those needs?
Okay.
Any other boards wanting to have updates or members?
Will be a commissioner meeting this Friday, this coming Friday morning. I'm doing my best to get to that one, and, but also the Rollinsford, trial, my wording is not right on this, but the trial, run that Stratford's doing with them to do which checks the grade of the road surfaces, kind of gives them an overall idea of what needs to be done on their roads. I believe that has started, so hopefully I'll hear more about that.
Okay. Any other members?
Donna, just a question. So our board sent the, or Dirk and I at least, sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen a few months ago, and we never heard anything about that. Last I knew, it was just, you know, was that ever read and discussed and reflected back in the minutes? Because it was specifically about some inaccuracies that were documented in the Board of Selectmen minutes, that were things that had been discussed here, I think probably 3, 4, 5 times, and some of them.
yeah, it was not discussed in the meeting. Is there specific action that you want me to take?
I think as a resident, not just a board member, you know, I know when this board has received letters from the Board of Selectmen, we took it seriously, and we immediately addressed it and responded. I know other boards in town that have received letters or things from the selectmen have responded and made sure, so.
I will do that.
Really, there was just inaccuracies in the Board of Selectmen minutes. There was things talked about studies that actually don't exist, as far as I know, because they've never been presented to our board. And they, again, were things that this board had previously discussed several times. And it was reflected again as fact, and it actually is not. So.
Okay. I will raise it at our next meeting.
Check on that, and then
I will.
we'll check back with you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, the last thing on the item is, or on the agenda, is the minutes from the last meeting, which was September 23rd. Those were distributed. You had some comments edits that came to you, Joanna, right? There are some edits that came to you. You've made those edits. Okay, great. Anybody have any other concerns with that? I'd take a motion to approve the minutes from the September 23rd.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the minutes of September 23rd, 2015 as amended.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
So do we want to meet in 2 weeks?
We'll meet on the 28th,
Yep.
and we'll
Yep.
talk about,
And
we don't have any other
we have no cases.
cases at this
So,
point.
And a
and if they
remi-
come in, they would be the first meeting in November anyway.
And then the reminder, Joanna sent out the schedule for the, is it NHMA? No, the next conference that's coming out.
Yeah, the New Hampshire Municipal Association has a
Yeah, in November they have their
conference,
conference.
two-day conference, I think.
So, anybody's going to that, I don't know that I can go.
Look at what
I'll be at
what's on the agenda.
I'll be at the
Law
one
lecture
next,
series,
next week,
yeah.
yeah, the law lecture series, I'll be at that
Or
next week.
maybe if they're with you, we'll add an update on the members that went to the law lecture series in 2 weeks too.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's probably something else that we may want to, I don't know, maybe the impact fee will take up the entire time. But there was a list we went through kind of a few meetings ago about having in future meetings, having those on the agenda. So maybe I'll just take a quick look through those and see if there's anything we can put at the bottom of the agenda. And if we don't get to it, then we can punt and go put that on another time. All right?
That's good.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Don't forget the Mylar.